My mom was almost abducted. This story happened to my mother a few weeks ago when she was at the store. It still shakes her up to this day whenever she retells it or thinks about it. One day, my mom had to run down to our local appliance store to look for some extra tools we needed, as we were renovating the kitchen at the time. So my mom heads over to the appliance store to see if she can find what she needed. After getting out of her car and almost at the front entrance, she notices in her peripheral vision that someone was following her close by. She didn't really think much of it at first and thought it was another person in a hurry to get in and out of the store, just like her. My mom continues walking throughout the store and still can see that there's someone standing not far from where she was. She decided to turn around out of curiosity to see who it was, and noticed that it was some scraggly man who looked like he was either in his early or mid-50s. My mom had gotten a good look at the man and could tell right away that the man didn't belong in the store. He had on worn-out clothes and definitely seen better days, and had this crazed expression on his face. My mom locked eyes with the creep for a moment or two before deciding to walk away from him quickly. As she was walking away, she could hear him approaching her direction slowly. At this point, my mom knew that she was being followed and had to do something about it. She proceeded to walk away at a normal pace as not to alert the guy in any way. She walked a few aisles over to see if the guy would follow her or if it was some major coincidence, but as it turned out, it was no coincidence. My mom did this a few more times, and whatever area of the store she went to, this guy followed her. She eventually went to find an employee and tell them about her situation. The man sees that she was talking to an employee and quickly walked away. The employee reassured my mom that they would have someone talk to him and she need not to worry. My mom felt relieved after this, knowing the employee would alert other employees of this creep in the store. For the rest of the time she was there, my mom didn't see the guy anywhere in the store. After she finished buying the supplies that she needed, she left the store and headed straight to her car. My mom wasn't even out of the store for more than 10 seconds, and she immediately had a bad feeling. She looks to her right, and lo and behold, it's the same freaking creep from before. My mom knew that she had to get away from this man, and fast. So she started to speed walk towards her car. The man then started to follow her close by. My mom had at least another 200 yards to go until she was at the car. She also had a frightening realization on her way to her car. Whenever my mom had sped up, he would speed up too. Whenever she slowed down or stopped, he would slow down or stop as well. This guy was trying his best to match my mom's footsteps so she couldn't hear him sneaking up on her. My mom could see she was less than 50 yards away from her car and began contemplating whether to sprint to her car or start screaming for help. My mom was almost to her car and could literally feel the guy breathing down her neck. What happened next was what my mom could only describe as divine intervention. As my mom was preparing to fend for herself if the man tried grabbing her, a truck had pulled up in the parking lot and was heading towards them. My mom, without hesitation, waved her hands to get the driver's attention. This had completely caught the man following her off guard. The driver of the truck had slowed down and my mom began walking towards him. My mom turned around for a split second and saw that he quickly walked away. The driver lowered his window and asked her if she was alright. He also told my mom, as he was driving towards her, he saw the sketchy-looking man stalking her from about 10 feet away from her. He also explained to her how smart she was and that she did the right thing for waving him down. The guy had also told my mom how lucky she was that he was there. He explained how there was a woman who had been abducted over a month ago in the area and she has yet to be found. My mom thanked him and had him watch her get into her car and leave safely. This may not seem much of a scary story to others, but I'd like to see how these people would feel and react if they were in my mom's shoes. My mom has since then told me that she's never shopping there again unless my dad is with her. The moral of this story is always pay attention to your surroundings, because you never know who's around you, and it may one day very well just save your life. Someone was following us in the woods. So, this happened when my sister and I were kids, and we went hiking in the woods in our backyard in North Carolina. We only had a few neighbors around us, and our house was surrounded by woods. It was a Saturday afternoon during the summer, and my sister and I decided to go hiking alone together like we did quite frequently. We were both under the age of 8, but our parents let us go hiking alone anyway. We loved exploring the forest and discovering new places. As we made our way through the woods, everything was fine at first. When we went to our favorite place where we usually hung out, something didn't feel quite right. I felt an uncomfortable feeling like something was going to happen. I looked around at my surroundings, but I didn't see anything or anyone. My sister and I continued walking through the woods until suddenly we heard leaves crunching behind us, so we turned around to see what it was. There was nothing there, so we thought it was just an animal. As we started hiking again, we heard the leaves crunching, and as we turned around, we saw someone run and hide behind a tree. We could see their shadow from behind the tree, and it looked like a person. It was definitely not an animal. We both looked at each other and felt paralyzed by fear. We started freaking out and thought this person was going to kidnap us. I grabbed my sister's hand and told her to run. We ran as fast as we could back home. Once we made it home, we ran inside and told our parents. Our parents became worried and told us next time we go hiking, don't go too far from the house anymore. I don't know who was following us, but it still freaks me out to this day. I don't know what they would have done to us if we hadn't run away. Hanged man. When I was about 9 or 10 years old, I stayed with a friend for a few days. She was 12 or 13 at the time. Her parents were away all week, and mine didn't know we were alone all that time. It was autumn, so the days ended earlier than usual. One evening, we decided to go to the market near her apartment. There was another apartment building in front of the store that we had to go around. We went to the market, bought ice cream and other sweets for later, and something for breakfast. While going back home, it already got dark outside and the stars were really bright. We wanted to stay outside a little longer, so we sat on the green bench that was right in front of the apartment building I mentioned before. We watched the stars and ate our ice cream while talking. Eventually, We got bored of stargazing and started looking into the windows of the building, which was about 12 to 15 stories high. It was an old building with green walls and no balconies on the side we sat on. We joked about what we saw in the windows, old furniture, old people living in there, etc. It was fun until I noticed a light in one of the windows on the very right. It was on the 7th or 10th floor, a white room with a hanging man inside. I remember that he had on gray sweatpants and black socks on him. I stared at him for less than a minute and couldn't believe my eyes. My friend asked me what I was looking at. I replied that I thought I saw a bat fly by. In fact, I thought I was delusional. At that time, not so long ago, my uncle hanged himself, and it was really devastating for me. Well, it wasn't an illusion. I looked again. The man was still there. I panicked and told my friend that I was getting cold and that we should go home. She agreed, and I moved away from the building as fast as possible. We got home, and I went to the bathroom to calm down. I wasn't crying. I was in pure shock and shaking all over. The rest of the night we spent as normal. It happened a long time ago. I no longer have contact with this friend. I never told her what I saw. I never told anyone. Now I know I should have. But I was a stupid kid who had recently been traumatized. I have very vivid dreams, and from time to time, this image comes back to my mind. My house was haunted. So this happened when I was a kid, and my family and I lived in North Carolina. Our house was surrounded by woods, and there was only a few neighbors around us. Every once in a while during the night, at around midnight, I would lay in bed because I couldn't fall asleep. I felt a creepy vibe like something or someone was watching me. Sometimes I would hear footsteps coming from the attic above my bedroom. It sounded like someone was walking around. I went outside my bedroom into the hallway, and everyone in my family was sleeping and their doors were closed, so I went back to my bedroom and closed my door. I was laying in my bed again, and I heard footsteps in the attic. Then I heard something fall in my closet. I was so scared that I ran into my parents' bedroom and woke them up. They were confused at first, but then I explained to them what I heard. My mom and dad said it was probably just my imagination, and they didn't believe me. They walked with me back to my bedroom and looked around my room, and then they went inside my closet. There was a board game that had spilled all over the closet floor. It was at the back of the shelf at the top of the closet, so there was no way it could fall in without someone pushing it off. My parents helped me clean it up and put it back on the shelf. They said that there was nothing to be scared of, and then they put me back to bed. They went back to bed too, and a few minutes later, after they left, I heard someone whispering something. It sounded like they were calling my name. Then I saw a shadow that looked like a person walking across the wall by my closet. I thought it was a ghost, and I started freaking out again, and I grabbed my pillow and blanket and went to my parents' bedroom floor. After that, I slept on their floor for a few more nights. Eventually, I went back to sleeping in my bedroom, and when I would lay in bed again at around midnight, I still heard the footsteps in the attic, and that they continued every once in a while until we eventually moved away. To this day, I still don't know what or who that was, but it still freaks me out. The drug-dealing stalker. This all started in the fall of 1998. I don't remember much as I was 8, but I do know what my aunt told me. And now that it's been so long, it's probably safe to tell. She and my now ex-uncle lived in a small one-bedroom apartment in a fairly nicer area of town. There were definitely some more crime-ridden areas not far from there, but their complex was gated and you needed a code to get in. Anyway, around early October, quite a few people, including my aunt, started reporting seeing a suspicious man around the complex. He was caught looking in windows of people's apartments and their cars as well as the storage areas, and management was able to confirm he didn't live there. This all happened until, let's say, around Halloween, when things really went off the rails. According to my uncle, he caught the man snooping around by my aunt's car and decided to confront him, and the man ran away. Again, this was hearsay from my uncle. When he ran, he dropped a bag that my uncle brought into their apartment. He wouldn't let my aunt open it and claimed he was going to turn it in to the police, which we thought he had, as one day he no longer had this bag anymore. Months go by, and this man is still creeping around, but only near my aunt and uncle's apartment, cars, and storage area, and nowhere else. My aunt had called the police many times, and by the time they'd show up, the man would always be gone. It's now January 1999. Here's the part I remember, as I was at my Nana's house when this happened. My aunt called my grandpa in hysterics. She caught the man with his face pressed on the glass of her bedroom window, watching her while my uncle was away on a work trip. And when he realized he was caught, he tried to break her window open and get inside. My grandpa grabbed his .45 and headed out to the car with my Nana and I following him, all the way begging him to let the cops handle it, and if he was going to go anyway, to leave his gun at home. He didn't. It took quite a few hours for my grandpa to finally return home, but when he did, this is what he told us. This man was in the apartment complex dealing drugs. My uncle stole his supply and refused to give it back to him or pay him for it. And we later found out it was because he was using it himself as well as selling. So he was planning to kidnap my aunt, among other things, to get his money. I'd like to say this is the thing that made her divorce him, but unfortunately, they stayed married for 10 more years after this. Probably would have been kidnapped. So this was back in 2016. I had moved to Iowa, which I had lived in Illinois all my life. I lived with my mom's friend and her kids, and they were pretty religious, so I was sent to a Catholic school along with their kids. It was probably a 15 to 20 minute walk from our house to the school, and we walked that way every morning and afternoon. I don't think that there were buses at the school, which is why we walked. There were 6 of us, 4 of them being older than me, and 1 younger than me. I don't really remember why the 3 of the older brothers didn't walk with us, but they didn't. It was my friend who I'd lived with, and she's older than me, her younger brother, and me. We were walking home like normal, and there were a lot of stores around. I vividly remember the Hy-Vee, which was halfway between home and school. We were almost to the Hy-Vee when this random guy stopped us. He He was wearing shorts and a t-shirt, nothing abnormal. He asked us if we had a phone he could use because he was in deep trouble. We did, but not for him. So we declined and said he could probably use one at a store. He was pretty frantic and told us we couldn't move. We were in middle school, so it was pretty scary. He had jumped in the street shortly after and tried opening car doors. It was a pretty busy street. People were getting off work and out of school. Once he turned his back, I grabbed my friend and her brother and ran. People pulled over and asked if we were okay, and they blocked his view of us so we could go home. We talked to the police and filed a report, but I don't think anything ever happened to the guy. I moved a few months after, back to Illinois, but I think about this guy pretty much every day. I don't know who he was, if he got caught, or what would have happened if he got a car door open. I'm just glad my friends and I made it home okay. Lady in the Window. My entire life, I've had something attached to me. I'm not sure if it's benevolent or a malevolent spirit. I've never felt unsafe when she's around, but I also know that she's not protecting me. She followed me across the country and even onto my first deployment when I was enlisted. I've never seen her head on, but I've only seen her out of my peripherals or in reflections, so I don't have a great description of her. The best I can make out is she's thin and petite, with long dark hair that reaches at least to her hips. I've never seen her face, ever, but I feel her eyes on me. Even as I'm writing this, I know she's watching me. I can feel her in the room with me. I was never worried about it before, but after I got out of the military, she started getting closer. She's close enough now that I'm almost certain I could touch her if I reached out. I don't know what she wants or why she's suddenly getting close now, but I'm scared about what she's gonna do when she finally gets to me.